The massive viewing windows of Lunar Station sparkled with starlight as thousands of beings from across the galaxy moved through the bustling corridors. The air recyclers hummed softly, mixing the breathing gases needed by dozens of different species. Near Gate 7, the luxury interstellar cruise ship Celestial Harmony stretched for nearly a kilometer, its silver hull gleaming under the station's artificial lights. Kim Jina pulled her travel bag closer as she walked through the crowd. Her worn scholarship badge caught the light, displaying the golden seal of the Galactic Youth Summit. At 16, she was one of the youngest humans ever selected for the prestigious program. For 3 months, she had studied alongside brilliant young minds from 17 different worlds, learning about interspecies cooperation and galactic diplomacy. The boarding area buzzed with excitement. Wealthy Zephyrian merchants floated past in their atmospheric suits, their tentacles gracefully managing multiple data tablets. A family of crystalline beings from the Andorian sector clicked and chimed as they spoke, their translucent bodies refracting rainbow patterns. Near the gate, a group of furry Corvan traders discussed shipping routes, while their young cubs played with holographic toys. Gina approached the boarding checkpoint, where Senior Flight Coordinator Veltar stood behind a gleaming control panel. The Valerian was nearly 3 meters tall, his crystalline skin shifting between blue and purple hues. His forearms moved with practiced efficiency as he processed passenger documents, but his expression remained cold and dismissive toward certain species. "Documents!" Veltar commanded without looking up as Gina reached the front of the line. Gina handed over her travel datapad and identification. Her fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, but from exhaustion after the long summit program. The device contained her scholarship credentials, summit completion certificate, and return passage documentation. Veltar's crystal eyes narrowed as he scanned the information. His upper arms crossed while his lower hands continued working the controls. "These credentials appear irregular," he announced, his voice carrying across the boarding area. Several nearby passengers turned to watch. "Sir, everything should be in order," Gina replied politely. The Terran embassy processed all documentation through proper channels. "Humans," Veltar sneered, his crystalline features shifting to darker shades. "Always trying to access services beyond their station. These documents are clearly fraudulent." His voice grew louder, ensuring everyone in the boarding area could hear. "A primitive species like yours could never afford passage on the Celestial Harmony." The boarding area fell silent. As Zephyrian merchants' tentacles stopped moving, the Corvan cubs ceased their play. Even the crystalline beings paused their musical conversation, all eyes focused on the confrontation. Gina felt heat rise in her cheeks, but kept her voice steady. "Sir, I'm a scholarship recipient, returning from the Galactic Youth Summit. My passage was arranged through the Cultural Exchange program." "Cultural exchange?" Veltar laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. "What culture could humans possibly share with civilized species? Your kind barely mastered spaceflight too. Centuries ago." He gestured dismissively with all 4 arms. "Security, remove this person from my boarding area." 2 sleek security drones glided forward, their sensors scanning Gina. Their metallic voices announced, "Please step away from the boarding gate. Compliance is mandatory." The crowd watched uncomfortably. Some passengers shifted nervously while others whispered among themselves. A young Corvan cub tugged at his parents' fur, asking why the nice human girl was in trouble. Gina took a deep breath, remembering her training from the summit about maintaining dignity under pressure. She didn't raise her voice or show anger. Instead, she looked directly at Veltar with calm determination. "I understand your position," she said quietly, "but I have rights under the Galactic Passenger Accords. Before any removal action, I request my legal communication privilege." Veltar's crystalline skin flashed bright purple with amusement. "Communication privilege? You want to call Mommy and Daddy?" He turned to address the watching crowd. "Look how the primitive human thinks legal procedures will save her from her obvious fraud." Other passengers began murmuring. Some looked sympathetic, while others seemed uncomfortable with Veltar's behavior. Elderly Zephyrian merchant floated closer, his tentacles moving in patterns that suggested concern. "Please proceed with your call, little human," Veltar said mockingly, gesturing toward a communication terminal. "Let's see if your parents can magically produce legitimate travel documents. Perhaps they can explain how a species that still uses chemical rockets managed to afford luxury passage." The security drones hovered closer, their red scanner lights focused on Gina. Their presence made several passengers step back, creating a wider circle around the confrontation. Gina walked calmly to the communication terminal, her worn bag still clutched in one hand. The device's screen glowed as she placed her palm on the scanner. Instead of entering a family contact code, her fingers moved swiftly across the keypad, inputting a special sequence she had memorized but hoped never to use. "Call your parents, little human," Veltar repeated loudly. "See if they can save you from the consequences of forging travel documents." The terminal's screen flashed green as Gina's emergency code transmitted across the galaxy, reaching networks that would change everything in the next few minutes. The communication terminal hummed softly as Gina's fingers moved across the keypad. The sequence she entered wasn't a standard contact code. It was something far more powerful. Her emergency beacon activated with a soft blue glow, transmitting an encrypted signal that would travel faster than light through the galaxy's quantum communication network. Veltar continued his mocking performance for the gathered crowd. "Look at the desperate human, probably calling her family's small farming colony," he sneered, his crystalline skin shifting to amused orange patterns. "Perhaps they'll send their life savings to bail out their lying daughter," the Corvin family watched nervously while their cubs hid behind their parents' furry legs. A group of tall, elegant Altarian passengers whispered among themselves, their feathered crests fluffing with discomfort at the public humiliation. Even the floating Zephyrian merchants seemed disturbed by Veltar's behavior, but Gina's call wasn't going to a farm or family home. Her signal shot through space, reaching relay stations across 3 star systems before connecting to the most secure network in human space, the diplomatic emergency grid. 300 light-years away, aboard the massive human dreadnought, Terra's Pride, Admiral Park Min-ho was reviewing fleet deployment reports when his personal communication panel exploded with priority alerts. The bridge's emergency lights flashed red as his tactical officer called out, "Admiral, emergency Alpha 7 signal incoming." Min-ho's weathered face turned serious as he read the transmission. The emergency code belonged to Kim Gina, a name he recognized immediately. His dark eyes widened as he pulled up her classified file. She wasn't just any scholarship student, she was the youngest human ever selected for the Galactic Council's Advanced Diplomatic Training Program, personally, recommended by ambassadors from 5 different species. "All ships, emergency stations!" Min-ho's voice boomed across the bridge. "Lieutenant Commander Lee Sora, get me fleet communications immediately." The bridge of the Terra's Pride became a hive of activity. Officers rushed to their stations as holographic displays showed the positions of every human vessel in Sector 7. The ship's artificial intelligence, voiced by a calm female persona, announced, "Admiral, we have 12 combat vessels, 8 support ships, and 4 diplomatic cruisers within range of Lunar Station." "Signal all vessels," Min-ho commanded, his voice carrying the authority of 40 years in space. "Code Alpha 7 emergency. All ships converge on Lunar Station immediately. Maximum speed authorization granted." Lieutenant Commander Lee Sora's fingers flew across her control panel. "Sir, dispatching orders now. The closest vessels can reach Lunar Station in 18 minutes. Across the star system, human ships received the priority alert simultaneously. The destroyer, Soul's Might, broke from its patrol route, its engines flaring brilliant blue as it accelerated toward Lunar Station. The diplomatic cruiser, Peaceful Resolution, abandoned its trade negotiations with a Zephyrian convoy, apologizing quickly before jumping to faster-than-light speed. Captain Kim Dae-ho of the heavy cruiser, Mountain's Edge, read the alert with growing anger. "A human citizen is being discriminated against at Lunar Station," he asked his first officer. "And it's someone from the diplomatic program?" "Yes, sir," his tactical officer confirmed. "The admirals marked this as highest priority." "Then we respond." "With everything we have," Dae-ho declared. "Helm, Plot the fastest course to Lunar Station. Engineering, I want maximum power to engines. We'll be there in 15 minutes. Back at Lunar Station, the Celestial Harmonies bridge was a picture of luxury and calm. Captain Zhao Weilin, an experienced Altarian with silver-blue feathers and kind golden eyes, was reviewing departure schedules with his navigation officer. The ship was due to depart for the Outer Rim colonies in 30 minutes. "Captain," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Terran Fleet Command." Captain Zhao's feathered crest rose with curiosity. "Put it through to my ready room." As he walked into his private office, more alerts began flooding in. His communication panel displayed incoming messages from the Human Diplomatic Corps, the Galactic Transit Authority, and something called the Cultural Exchange Emergency Network. "What in the 7 moons is happening?" Zhao muttered as he opened the first transmission. Meanwhile, at Lunar Station's main control center, Traffic Controller Yuki Tanaka noticed unusual activity on his long-range sensors. "Supervisor, I'm detecting multiple human vessels approaching our position at high speed." His Zephyrian supervisor floated over, tentacles moving with concern. "How many vessels?" "At least 20, sir, and they're not slowing down for standard approach protocols." The supervisor's tentacles turned pale blue with worry. "Contact Lunar Station Authority immediately. Something significant is happening." Back in the boarding area, Gina remained calm at the communication terminal, while Veltar continued his humiliation. She knew her signal had been sent, but she also knew that help would take time to arrive. The gathered passengers watched uncomfortably as security drones hovered closer, still waiting for Mummy. Veltar taunted, unaware that his world was about to change forever. The first human ship appeared on Lunar Station's sensors exactly 17 minutes after Gina's call. The destroyer Soul's Might dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a flash of brilliant energy that lit up the viewing windows throughout the station. Then came another ship, and another. Within minutes, human vessels surrounded Lunar Station like protective guardian angels. Their weapons powered down, but their message clear. One of their own was in trouble, and they had come to help. The space around Lunar Station transformed. In minutes, from peaceful commerce to an impressive display of human naval power. The massive dreadnought Terra's Pride emerged from hyperspace with a thunderous energy discharge that made the station's hull vibrate. Its kilometer-long form cast shadows across the smaller civilian ships docked at the station's outer rings. Admiral Park Minho stood on his flagship's bridge, watching as 11 more human vessels took strategic positions around the station. The Aizoru destroyer Soul's Might positioned itself near the main docking bays, while the heavy cruiser Mountain's Edge took point near the station's command center. Diplomatic ships mixed with military vessels, creating a unified show of strength and authority. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Commander Lee Sora, "all vessels are in position. Lunar Station Authority is requesting immediate communication. Put them through," Minho ordered, his weathered face stern with determination. The holographic display activated, showing a nervous Zephyrian station commander whose tentacles were shifting between worried purple and pale blue. "Admiral Minho, this is an unusual military presence. Is there some kind of emergency?" "There certainly is," Minho replied coldly. "One of our diplomatic personnel is being illegally detained and discriminated against aboard the Celestial Harmony. We're here to ensure her rights are protected under galactic law." Meanwhile, across 17 different star systems, automated legal filing systems were processing an unprecedented flood of discrimination charges. The Human Diplomatic Corps had activated their Rapid Response Legal Protocol, filing formal complaints. Simultaneously on Terra, New Sol, the Altarian homeworld, Zephyr Prime and 13 other major galactic trade centers, each filing contained detailed evidence packages, witness testimonies, and requests for immediate investigation. The charges ranged from violation of galactic passenger rights to systematic species discrimination, with some carrying penalties severe enough to shut down entire shipping companies. Aboard the Celestial Harmony, Captain Zhao Weilin's ready room had become chaos central. His communication panel displayed 47 incoming priority messages, with more arriving every few seconds. His navigation officer knocked urgently on his door. "Captain, we have a serious situation," the young Altarian officer reported, his feathers ruffled with stress. "Lunar Station Control has ordered an immediate engine lockdown. We're not allowed to depart under any circumstances." Zhao's golden eyes widened as he read the flood of messages. Legal notices from the Galactic Transit Authority, emergency communications from the Human Embassy, and urgent warnings from his own company's headquarters filled his screens. "Get me Senior Flight Coordinator Veltar immediately," Zhao ordered, his voice tight with growing anger. "And summon all department heads to the bridge." Down in the boarding area, the atmosphere had completely shifted. What began as one Valarian's petty discrimination was becoming a galactic incident. Passengers who had been quietly uncomfortable now whispered among themselves, and many were recording the scene with their personal devices. Veltar's crystalline skin had shifted from confident purple to nervous grey as he noticed the crowd's changing mood. Through the massive viewing windows, the hull lights of human warships were clearly visible, their powerful engines still glowing blue from their rapid arrival. "What's happening out there?" asked the elderly Zephyrian merchant, his tentacles, pointing toward the windows. "Why are there so many human military ships?" Gina remained calm at the communication terminal, but her eyes sparkled with quiet satisfaction. She had known her emergency code would bring help, but even she was impressed by the swift response. That's when other passengers began speaking up. A young Corvan trader stepped forward, his furry face angry. "That Valarian treated my family terribly during boarding," he announced to the crowd. "He said our trading permits were suspicious because we're from the Outer Rim colonies." A crystalline being's translucent form shimmered with indignation as she spoke in her musical voice. "He delayed my family for 2 hours, claiming our atmospheric requirements were inconvenient for a luxury ship." More voices joined in. An Altarian diplomat shared how Veltar had openly mocked his government's trade policies. A group of young Zephyrian students described being forced to pay additional processing fees that weren't charged to other species. The security drones, programmed to maintain order, found themselves surrounded by increasingly vocal passengers, sharing their experiences. Their mechanical voices kept repeating, "Please remain calm. Please maintain order." But no one was listening anymore. Captain Zhao arrived at the boarding area with his senior staff, his feathered crest fully raised in anger. His golden eyes took in the scene, the human girl standing calmly by the communication terminal, the agitated crowd of passengers, and Veltar looking increasingly desperate. "What exactly is happening here?" Zhao demanded, his authoritative voice cutting through the noise. Before Veltar could speak, the Corvan trader pointed an accusatory claw at him. "Your flight coordinator has been discriminating against passengers. For months, this human girl is just the latest victim." The Zephyrian merchant floated closer to Captain Zhao. "Captain, this Valarian has been systematically harassing non-Valarian passengers. Many of us have complained to your company, but nothing was done." Zhao's communication device chimed with an urgent message from Lunar Station Control. "Captain, Zhao, you are ordered to cooperate fully with the incoming human diplomatic mission. Admiral Park Minho is requesting immediate boarding access to investigate passenger rights violations." Through the viewing windows, a sleek human diplomatic shuttle was approaching the Celestial Harmony's main docking bay. Its hull bore the official seals of both the Terran Diplomatic Corps and the Galactic Council. Veltar's arrogance finally cracked completely. His crystalline skin turned pale white as he realized the magnitude of his mistake. The simple human student he had humiliated was apparently important enough to mobilize an entire fleet. "Captain," he stammered, "there's been a misunderstanding. The humans' documents, and they seemed irregular, but perhaps I was too hasty." "Too hasty?" Captain Zhao's voice rose with controlled fury. "You've potentially started a diplomatic incident that could destroy our company." The crowd of passengers parted as Gina walked calmly toward Captain Zhao. Her worn scholarship badge caught the light, but now everyone could see the additional credentials displayed on her travel documents, including her status as a Galactic Council diplomatic trainee. "Captain," Gina said politely, "I believe there are some people who would like to speak with you about passenger treatment aboard your ship." Through the docking bay windows, they could all see Admiral Minho's shuttle preparing to dock. while 12 human warships maintained their protective formation around Lunar Station. The first news drone arrived within 20 minutes, its sleek, metallic form weaving through the human fleet formation with practiced ease. The spherical device, no larger than a basketball, deployed its high-definition recording sensors and began broadcasting live footage across the galactic news networks. Soon, dozens more media drones swarmed around Lunar Station like a cloud of mechanical insects. News organizations from every major species had dispatched their fastest recording units. The Altarian Broadcasting Network, Zephyrian News Collective, and even the secretive Corvan Independent Media were all streaming live coverage of the unprecedented standoff. Inside the Celestial Harmony's boarding area, Captain Zhao faced a nightmare scenario. His communication panel showed emergency alerts from Valarian Luxury Line's headquarters, while his first officer whispered urgent updates about the growing media presence outside. "Captain," his communications officer announced nervously, "we're receiving cancellation requests from passengers across our entire fleet. The Zephyrian Trade Consortium just cancelled their exclusive partnership contract. But the real economic earthquake was happening across human space." On New Sol, the largest human colony in Sector 7, Governor Lee Hanna stood before the Colonial Assembly with grim determination. The emergency session had been called within an hour of receiving news about Gina's situation. Effective immediately, Governor Lee announced to the packed Assembly Hall, "All New Sol-based companies are prohibited from doing business with Valarian Luxury Lines until this discrimination issue is resolved." Similar scenes played out across dozens of human worlds. On Terra Nova, the Colonial Council voted unanimously to ban all Valarian ships from their SPAC ports. The industrial world of heavy metal suspended all shipping contracts with Valarian freight companies. Even the peaceful farming colonies of the Outer Rim joined the boycott, refusing to sell food supplies to Valarian vessels. The economic impact was devastating and immediate. Valarian Luxury Line's stock price plummeted 40% in the first hour of trading. Their freight division, which relied heavily on human agricultural products, faced immediate supply shortages. Emergency board meetings were called on the Valarian homeworld as company executives watched their empire crumble in real time. Admiral Park Minho's shuttle docked with the Celestial Harmony with a soft, mechanical thud. The airlock cycled with a hiss of equalizing atmosphere as the Admiral and his diplomatic team prepared to board. Through the station's viewing windows, passengers could see human ships maintaining their protective formation, their running lights creating a constellation of blue and white against the star field. In the boarding area, Gina found herself at the center of a media storm. The news drones hovered at respectful distances, their sensors capturing every word and expression. Captain Zhao had cleared a space for her to speak, while Veltar stood to one side, his crystalline skin now a sickly pale gray. The passengers who had shared their own stories of discrimination stood nearby, creating a diverse group that represented the galactic community at its best. The Corvan family with their furry cubs, the elegant Altarian diplomats with their colorful feathers, the floating Zephyrian merchants, and the musical crystalline beings, all united in support of basic dignity and respect. Gina took a deep breath and faced the recording drones. Despite being surrounded by chaos and interstellar incident, her voice remained calm and clear. "My name is Kim Gina. I am 16 years old, and yes, I am the youngest human ever selected for the Galactic Council's Advanced Diplomatic Program." The news drones moved closer, their sensors focusing on her composed features. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the live broadcast on their personal devices and public viewing screens. "But my credentials and achievements are not why this situation matters," Gina continued, her eyes meeting the cameras directly. "This matters because every being in this galaxy deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their species, homeworld, or economic status." Her words carried across space at light speed, reaching human colonies, alien homeworlds, and space stations throughout the galaxy. On Earth, the Global Assembly interrupted their session to watch the broadcast. On the Altarian capital world, citizens gathered in public squares to hear the young humans speak. Today, I was humiliated and threatened with removal from a ship, simply because of my species, Gina said, gesturing toward Veltar without malice or anger. But I've learned that I wasn't alone. Many other passengers have faced similar treatment. This pattern of discrimination hurts all of us, because it weakens the unity that makes our galactic community strong. The elderly Zephyrian merchant floated closer, his tentacles moving in patterns of agreement. "The young human speaks truth," he said to the cameras. "If we allow discrimination against one species, we allow it against all species." The Corvan trader nodded vigorously, his cubs peeking out from behind his legs to watch the proceedings. "My family travels these routes every month for our business. We shouldn't have to fear harassment just because we're from the Outer Rim." As P. Gina spoke, more and more beings across the galaxy began sharing their own experiences on social networks. The hashtag #DignityForAll spread through alien communication systems, translated into hundreds of languages and communication methods. Crystalline beings shared harmonic messages of support, while Corvan communities posted traditional unity songs. The economic boycott expanded beyond human space. Altarian companies began cancelling contracts with Valarian luxury lines. Zephyrian trading fleets rerouted their business to competitors. Even species that rarely interacted with humans expressed support for the principles Gina had articulated. Admiral Minho emerged from the docking bay with his diplomatic team, his uniform bearing the insignia of both the human fleet and the galactic peacekeeping force. His presence added weight to the situation, but it was Gina's quiet dignity that had captured the galaxy's attention. "What we've seen today," Gina concluded, "shows that when we stand together against injustice, we become stronger than any single species or corporation. Unity isn't just a nice idea, it's our greatest strength as a galactic community." The news. Drones captured her final words as human ships maintained their protective formation around Lunar Station, a visible symbol of what could be accomplished when beings refused to accept discrimination and stood together for justice. Admiral Park Minho strode through the boarding area with the authority of someone who had spent 4 decades protecting human interests across the galaxy. His diplomatic team flanked him, experienced negotiators who had resolved interstellar conflicts and trade disputes. But today, their most important task was ensuring justice for one 16-year-old girl. Senior. "Flight Coordinator Veltar," Admiral Minho announced, his voice carrying across the crowded space. "You are under arrest for 17 counts of species discrimination, violation of galactic passenger rights, and creating a hostile environment aboard a registered interstellar vessel." Veltar's crystalline form had turned completely transparent, with fear. His forearms trembled as Galactic Authority enforcement drones, sleek silver units with blue scanner arrays, moved to surround him. The drones' mechanical voices announced his rights in 7 different languages as energy restraints activated around his limbs. "This is a mistake," Veltar protested, his voice cracking like breaking glass. "I was just following company security protocols." Captain Zhao's feathered crest fluffed with anger as he stepped forward. "There are no company protocols that authorize species discrimination," he declared firmly. "You acted on your own prejudices, and you've brought shame to this ship and our entire fleet." The passengers watched as Veltar was escorted away by the enforcement drones, their energy fields humming softly. The Corvan cubs cheered quietly while their parents maintained dignified silence. The elderly Zephyrian merchant's tentacles moved in patterns of satisfaction, while the crystalline beings chimed in harmonious approval. Captain Zhao approached Gina with genuine remorse in his golden eyes. His diplomatic training kicked in as he performed a formal Altarian bow, spreading his silver-blue wings briefly in a gesture of deep respect. "Miss Kim Gina," he said formally, "on behalf of the Celestial Harmony Valarian Luxury Lines and my personal honor, I offer you my deepest apologies. Your treatment today was inexcusable and goes against everything we claim to represent." He gestured toward the ship's elegant interior corridors. "I would like to offer you our presidential suite for your journey home, full amenities, private dining, and complete privacy. It's the least we can do to make amends." The news drones hovering nearby captured every word, broadcasting the moment across the galaxy. but Gina's response surprised everyone. "Thank you, Captain Zhao, but I have a different request," she said, calmly. "I'd like to address all passengers and crew members before we depart. What happened today affects everyone aboard this ship, and I think we need to talk about it together." Captain Zhao's crest rose with curiosity. "Of course, we can arrange for you to speak in the main assembly hall." An hour later, the Celestial Harmony's Grand Assembly Hall buzzed with activity. The circular amphitheater, designed to accommodate beings of all sizes and atmospheric requirements, filled with passengers and crew members. Corvan families occupied the lower levels, while floating Zephyrians hovered in the middle sections. Crystalline beings arranged themselves where their refractive bodies could create the most beautiful light patterns, and Altarian staff members perched on specialized seating designed for their wing structures. Gina stood at the center podium, no longer the intimidated teenager from the boarding gate. The experience had transformed her into someone who understood the power of speaking truth to injustice. The ship's internal cameras broadcast her words throughout the vessel, while news networks carried the speech live across multiple star systems. "3 hours ago, I was humiliated in your boarding area," Gina began, her voice clear and strong. "But what happened to me wasn't unique. It was part of a pattern that many of you have experienced. Today we have a chance to change that pattern forever." Her words resonated through the ship's communication systems, translated into dozens of languages for the diverse crew and passenger manifest. In the engineering sections, Corvan technical specialists stopped their work to listen. In the luxury suites, wealthy Zephyrian traders paused their business calls to hear what the young human had to say. "Dignity isn't something we earn through achievements or wealth," Gina continued. "It's something every conscious being deserves simply because they exist. When we allow discrimination against any species, we weaken the bonds that hold our galactic community together." The audience listened intently as she spoke about unity, respect, and the courage required to stand against injustice. Her speech, later known as the Lunar Station Address, became one of the most watched recordings in galactic history. Educational institutions across hundreds of worlds would eventually include it in their curricula about civil rights and interspecies cooperation. Captain Zhao, watching from the command observation deck, felt a profound shift in his ship's atmosphere. Crew members who had previously remained silent about discrimination began reporting incidents they had witnessed. Passengers started conversations across species lines that hadn't existed before. The immediate impact was remarkable, but the long-term consequences were revolutionary. Within 6 months, the Galactic Transit Authority had implemented the GINA protocols, comprehensive anti-discrimination laws for all interstellar transportation. Every ship, station, and spaceport had to maintain detailed logs of passenger treatment, with severe penalties for violations. Admiral Minho, observing from his flagship's bridge, smiled with pride as he watched the young diplomat who had changed everything. His tactical display showed human ships beginning their departure from Lunar Station, their protective mission accomplished. But the real victory wasn't military, it was moral. Gina's journey home became something extraordinary. At every stop, representatives from different species requested meetings with the human who had stood up to injustice with quiet dignity. Corvan trade guilds invited her to speak about fair business practices. Altarian diplomatic academies asked her to guest, lecture about conflict resolution. Even the mysterious Deep Space Collective sent messages of support. The Celestial Harmony itself was transformed. Under Captain Zhao's leadership, it became a model of interspecies cooperation. The crew included representatives from 12 different species, all working together with genuine respect and understanding. Passengers often commented that the ship felt different, more welcoming, more united. Years later, when Gina had become one of the youngest full ambassadors in Galactic Council history, she would often reflect on that day at Lunar Station. One emergency call had brought a fleet to her rescue, but more importantly, it had brought a galaxy together in recognition that justice and dignity weren't luxuries. They were necessities for any civilization that hoped to reach for the stars. Teenage girl who had simply refused to accept discrimination had shown the entire galaxy that sometimes the most powerful response to injustice is the quiet certainty that every being deserves better. The End.